What's up, you guys? So it's Layla Lynn, and I'm back with a Diddy update. We know that yesterday Diddy was denied bond. The judge denied his request to get out of jail on bond because of two main factors. Number one, witness tampering, and they used Kalina Harper as an example that he contacted her, him or his people contacted her 54 times before she released that statement saying that she hadn't witnessed any crimes. And number two, and the other reason the judge didn't let him out of jail on bond is because he is a flight risk, and he's also a risk to commit the same crimes. They say he commits these crimes against women and other people while he's under the influence of drugs, and when they arrested him with drugs in his possession. But now TMZ is reporting Diddy is promising no female visitors if he is let out on bail. They say Diddy is taking another swing at getting out on bail, and he's upping his offer to the court, declaring he will forego contact with almost all women while he's out. Now, if y'all know like I know or think like I think, y'all know that it's not just women. But in any case, they say in docs obtained by TMZ, Diddy's legal team says if he's released on bail, the security company that keeps a log of all visitors to his home will hand over those logs to the government nightly in order to be fully transparent about who Diddy is contacting. And this is so strange to see. After 20, 30 years of being covert and hiding his criminal offenses, now he's saying that he's going to be completely transparent about what he is doing and who he is doing it with. It's hard to believe, and I personally hope the judge doesn't go for it, but we will see because there is going to be a hearing in about an hour. They say Diddy will limit all visitors to family, property caretakers, and friends who are not co-conspirators in the federal indictment. Specifically, they say Diddy will restrict female visitors, with the only exceptions being family members and the mothers of his children. TMZ reports clearly Diddy and his attorneys are attempting to address the court's concern that he will contact or intimidate witnesses. Further, Diddy also states in the documents he will have no contact with known grand jury witnesses, and he's also agreeing to weekly drug testing. His drug use is a central component of the indictments, which alleges his freak-off parties were fueled by cocaine, ketamine, GHB, ecstasy, and other narcotics. Plus, I want to get into why it's so important, other than the fact that obviously he doesn't want to be in jail, but I want to get into why it's so important for Diddy that he get out on bond. And that's because the time for him to go to trial could be years. He's doing speedy trial, just like all Americans, but it could literally take years for him to go to trial. So he could literally be in jail for years before he even goes to trial. It's being reported the time before Diddy's case goes to trial will depend on various factors, including how complex the case is, the legal strategies of both the defense and prosecution, and the court schedule. Typically, for high-profile federal cases involving multiple charges like trafficking, ex-trafficking, and racketeering, it can take months or even a year before the trial begins. Months to a year. Pre-trial motions, hearings, and negotiations can extend this period. So they're saying it could be up to a year. There was an attorney who spoke with Access Hollywood who said it could actually be between 1 and 2 years.
Attorneys are saying $50 million and home confinement with a device that will keep track of combs. That's the argument before the court today.
Do we have any idea of a timeline of how long he would be kept?
Every defendant has the right to a speedy trial, but oftentimes these trials do not move forward within the 90-day parameters of the law because there's so many pretrial motions and issues in the legal world that need to be decided before you get into the courtroom. You're talking about a year to 2 years before we see a trial.
So a year to 2 years before he even goes to trial. And when he does go to trial, he could be facing life in prison. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, in a press release yesterday, said that the racketeering conspiracy charge carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. So just on that one charge, he's facing life in prison. And then the trafficking charge, the ex-trafficking charge, carries a maximum sentence of life in prison, as well as mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years. So if he's found guilty of that, it's a mandatory minimum of 15 years, but that could be a life sentence as well. And then the third charge for transportation to engage in prostitution prison could have a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. So these are some very serious charges that Diddy is facing, and it's possible if Diddy does not get out of jail on bond at any point before his trial, he could be in jail for years, possibly up to 2 years before his actual trial. And then if he's found guilty, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Right now, he is detained in Brooklyn. TMZ reports, on the heels of the judge ordering Diddy to be held without bail, the feds shipped him out of the Lower Manhattan Federal Courthouse and off to Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a facility notorious for its brutal, sometimes fatal conditions. This particular facility has been the temporary home to several celebrity inmates in recent years, including R. Kelly, which people keep comparing him to R. Kelly, and I wish people would just let this stand on its own. But it's been the home to R. Kelly, Fetty Wap, Michael Cohen, Allison Mack, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Federal judges have called out the Bureau of Prisons for alleged inhumane conditions at this facility. So I don't know if they purposely put him in one of the worst jails in New York, but this is one of the worst jails that he could be in at the moment. And back in June, an inmate's life was taken at that prison. Dawn Richard's attorney, Lisa Bloom, has spoken out and said that basically, if everything is true, Diddy deserves to be in prison for life. So let's get into what she said.
Dawn wants to be vindicated. She wants her day in court. She wants to see accountability and justice after so many years of what she endured at the hands of Sean Combs. I think my client and many others were just terrified of this man. Dawn Richard is a musician. All she wants to do is make music. Has critically acclaimed albums. She's about to go on tour. That's what she wants to do. The last thing she wanted to do was to bring a federal lawsuit against Sean Combs. But ultimately, she got to a breaking point, and she wanted to stand with the other women, and she wanted to tell her story, and it was time for her to seek justice. If you are randomly, wantonly assaulting women, abusing women, threatening women, if you have AR-15s with the serial numbers covered up, if you are threatening people, if you are ruining lives, you should be in prison for the rest of your life.
All right, you guys, so leave a comment and let me know what you think. What do you think about Diddy possibly having to stay in jail until his trial, which could take years, and then him facing life in prison? A minimum of 15 years if found guilty, but he could be facing life in prison. Leave a comment and share your thoughts on that. As always, thanks for watching.